Well, since I started recording segments for today's show, we got news that the bipartisan border deal, a part of the broader security funding bill, has failed. This is something I've been covering each step of the way, so I may as well fill you in on the conclusion to that story, which is that MAGA has successfully killed the deal. And I do also want to get to Republican Senator James Lankford speaking before the bill was voted on and revealing something pretty wild about, I'm assuming, a Fox News host, but I'll show that to you in just a moment. In case you're watching this segment on the channel and you need a little context, I'll once again quickly say that Republicans and Democrats in the Senate negotiated a deal. This is exactly what Republicans have been asking for forever on the border. I've said this many times today. The Border Patrol came out and endorsed it, but Trump has instructed MAGA in the House to kill the deal so that this problem can be as bad as possible and he can run on it in the election, which is disgusting. With that being said, here is Republican Senator Lankford saying that a popular conservative host told him that if he attempts to solve issues at the southern border before the election, the host will try to destroy him.
Some of them may have policy differences. Some of them have been very clear with me. They have political differences with the bill. They say it's the wrong time to solve the problem, or let the presidential election solve this problem. In fact, I had a popular commentator 4 weeks ago that I talked to that told me flat out, before they knew any of the contents of the bill, nothing was out at that point, that told me flat out, if you try to move a bill that solves the border crisis during this presidential year, I will do whatever I can to destroy you, because I do not want you to solve this during the presidential election. By the way, they have been faithful to their promise and have done everything they can to destroy me in the past several weeks.
So a lot of people are speculating that he's referring to Sean Hannity. Hannity is the one that I'm aware of being on the phone with Trump the most of any conservative host, so that would make sense. But it could be any number of people, and this is why. I've been overcome with a wave of feeling defeated right now. This is why it's so hard and so discouraging to engage with MAGA Republicans and to take them seriously when they say they care about an issue genuinely. You don't, though. You never did. Unless you speak out against MAGA in this moment. It was only ever about hurting Biden and helping Trump, and that's really unfortunate. And let's just be super clear. There's officially only one party in this country who has any interest in actually solving problems, who has any interest in actually helping people. And while the Democratic Party is far from perfect, that one party is the Democratic Party who's willing to actually try to get things done, positive things done. If you have the opportunity to address something that you've been spending who knows how much time screaming about at max volume, and you choose not to for political purposes, you've just been lying this entire time. And that really bums me out. No, well, it does, but it's discouraging. It is. Because a little part of me, even if I severely disagree with somebody, I want to believe that they're coming from some place of authenticity. Because if you can have principles, even if to me they're whack, then I can try to maybe move you, or I can engage with those. We can negotiate. I can build some sort of worldview that takes into account your stances, your principles. If you just bend your principles, morph them however you like for political purposes, then again, I can't take you seriously. I can't engage with you like someone who cares about any of these things. Here's more from James Lankford.
Madam President, I'm going to vote yes to be able to move on to this bill. So we need a change in the law. I understand we have differences, but we've got to sit down together, figure out how we're going to solve problems, because the American people sent us here to do that. This is the pen that I was handed at that desk when I was sworn in to the United States Senate. And I signed a book that was at that desk with this pen because I was becoming a United States Senator. Because the people at home sent me here to get stuff done and to solve problems. There's no reason for me to have this pen if we're just going to do press conferences. I can do press conferences from anywhere, but we can only make law from this room. And to do that, you need one of these pens. And there's 100 of them in this room, and 60 of us have to agree to solve a problem. And I'm determined to sit down with anyone who wants to solve the problem, regardless of what side of the aisle that they're on, to figure out how we solve these things. Because Americans are ticked off that this is not resolved. And they expect us to get things done. So why don't we do that?
So, listen, so much about Langford, his stances and policy positions, horrible. But at least when he said he wanted to address issues about the border, he meant it. The crazy thing, by the way, is this will likely cause MAGA to turn on him. Him following through on what MAGA has been asking Congress to do will cause them to be angry at him. MAGA logic. Here's Hakeem Jeffries' response to all this.
American people understand the difference between common sense and cynicism, and this is a cynical political effort by Republicans. Donald Trump has been very vocal about the fact that he wants the extreme MAGA Republicans in the House to block any effort at fixing our broken immigration system. And I think the American people see that for exactly what it is, a reckless political stunt. We're going to continue as Democrats to put people over politics and to fight for the issues that matter: lower costs, growing the middle class, safer communities, and getting things done.
House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries, we appreciate your time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
And he's absolutely correct. When Democrats were in the majority, I'll say again, in the House, we got a once-in-a-lifetime infrastructure law, lower prescription drug costs in the Inflation Reduction Act, also in the IRA, healthcare expansions, investments in green energy, investments in American manufacturing, and the CHIPS Act, and on it goes. Republicans are now in the majority, and we've gotten impeachment attempts, and then obstruction on solving the very problem they've been running on and they've been saying they want to solve. If you are voting for Republicans, why? I'll remind you too. Oh, Luke, don't they know? That's how some hypothetical hater sounds. It's not that MAGA Republicans don't want to solve the problem. It's just this bill is horrible. And it, as you're about to hear Ted Cruz say, it just enshrined Joe Biden's open border into law. Really? That's why Border Patrol endorsed it? And before playing this next clip, just get ready. You're going to cringe, okay? I'm sorry, but here it is. Ted Cruz plugging his podcast in the wake of all this.
There are big events breaking in Washington, D.C. The border bill that would have codified Joe Biden's open borders is dead. On today's podcast, I take you inside how that border bill died, what happened. I take you inside the room behind closed doors and let you know the battles that are going on as we fight to secure the border. You can hear all about it. You only hear about it one place, and that's on the podcast Verdict with Ted Cruz. Download it now. You can get it any place you get your podcast, and you can join me and understand what's happening and what's going on in the fight to secure the border.
So ridiculous. Then here's John Kennedy making absolutely no sense.
Obviously, she's very frustrated. She said that in her home state, people they don't care about politics. They want to make at least, and you just said, Senator, that you were looking for some provisions that would improve, right? And when you go through this, and I understand that people on both sides have very big, differences over this, but you don't think there were some provisions in there that were worth moving on?
I can't predict the future. I have to wait for it like everybody else. But I don't see how anybody could look at this bill and confidently predict it would have been an improvement.
Well, the chief of the Border Patrol just said exactly that. Don't you think that he probably knows better than anybody what would have helped his people out a little bit?
And I have great respect for him, but I disagree with him.
So Border Patrol for the legislation. John Kennedy, he's watched live feeds on Fox News of the border, so he knows better, really. We should trust his take on this. and also he has to wait for the future to get here like everyone else. That didn't make any sense. Oh, I'm so folksy. I have all these little things I say. Well, make them make sense, John. That little act you play. Ugh, so aggravating. But he's also spewing nonsense. By the way, you could probably tell I'm just tired, okay? I'm tired of all this. I'm tired of the dishonesty. And I do wish, I know this sounds like someone engaging with politics for the very first time, but I do just wish we could live in a world, and sometimes I dream of this, and I shouldn't because it's so unrealistic, but where everyone is honest, genuine about solving problems and helping people, and is morally consistent. Maybe just be consistent with your own principles. You can have bad principles, but just make them consistent and hold yourself to them. My goodness. We can't, or I should say, is it really so hard to elect people who actually want to do their jobs? Seems like it is difficult for a lot of people. And there are plenty of options. My goodness. But instead we select these buffoons. Then I've done a lot of negative segments about independent Senator Kirsten Sinema, but here she's on the correct side of things and had this to say.
So if you want to spin the border crisis for your own political agendas, go right ahead. If you want to continue to use the southern border as a backdrop for your political campaign, that's fine. Good luck to you. But I have a very clear message for anyone using the southern border for staged political events. Don't come to Arizona. Take your political theater to Texas. Do not bring it to my state. Because in Arizona, we're serious. We don't have time for your political games. We are not interested in you posing for the cameras. In Arizona, we are busy.
But they will continue to do photo shoots, even though they don't want to solve the problems. And to be clear, any issues at the southern border, now let's just be super clear. These are MAGA Republican problems. In terms of where we cast blame here, if that's what we're doing, the blame now goes MAGA Republicans, that direction. Because they're the ones preventing the solution or an attempt at a solution. Make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. You can become a member at lukebeasleyshow.com/membership.